Hypixel is the biggest Minecraft server of all time. But did you know that the second, third, fourth, fifth, and even sixth biggest server are all ones you've never heard of? Regularly reaching player counts in the tens of thousands with unique minigames and game modes you've never heard of. First, let's head to Brazil, as they have quite a few servers of significant size. BlocksMC, as it's known, is a Brazilian server that regularly peaks at around 6,000 to 7,000 players. Now, I've never seen this before, but the server actually blocks you from joining if you connect from outside Brazil, or at least from South America, I'm assuming, meaning I had to bust out my Brazilian VPN, so yes, we are really going to Brazil now. Upon joining the server, I was whelmed to say the least. It seems like your basic minigame server, ripping off Hypixel's color schemes and chat entirely, featuring popular minigames like Bed Wars, Sky Wars, Duels, The Bridge, and what's this? Active Hunger Games? That's one thing you'll notice about many of the servers we'll be exploring today. They are somewhat behind the trends most Western servers are, and as such you can find many older and considered dead minigames and game modes still alive and active. Unfortunately, this was more of a Battle Royale or UHC version of Hunger Games rather than the one we all know and love, but regardless, it was still quite active. Somehow I died to this guy here, really confused how considering I hit him 3 times more. Guess the Brazilian ping didn't help, but yeah, this server so far wasn't that interesting, but yet still extremely popular. What's more interesting though is a popular Brazilian Pixelmon server, which of course is cracked, that regularly peaks at 1.5 to 2,000 players alone. The server has a variety of active Pixelmon Reforged modded realms. It's really popular. Yet the most interesting Brazilian server I joined was Hylex.gg, a server which also peaks at around 2,000 players daily and once again is also cracked. Upon registering, I arrived at what could only be described as Brazilian Hypixel. Everything is so similar, including the chat colors, the lobbies, the NPCs, the chat formatting, the scoreboard, the maps, and the hub. It's quite interesting just how influential Hypixel has been, even in countries where players may not even know what it is. Anyways, Hylex is just another basic minigame server, with Bed Wars once again seemingly being its main attraction. I should also mention that all of the Brazilian servers we joined were pay to win, some even selling their own versions of battle passes. Alright, you know what, I'm a bit sick of Brazil now, let's continue our world tour and head to Poland. But before we go, why don't all of you head over to my server, og-network.net, and join our SMP, Bedrock players can join as well. And subscribe while you're at it, we just hit 500k, no pressure though. Anyways, Poland has 2 major servers, the first of which is known as CraftMC, regularly peaking at 2,500 players daily. Continuing the trend, CraftMC is also a cracked server, but unlike the Brazilian minigame servers we already explored, CraftMC's most popular attractions are game modes such as Skyblock, One Block, and their Anarchy server. After being AFK kicked for standing still for literally 20 seconds, I hopped onto Skyblock, which is your standard pay-to-win grindy Skyblock that plagues many of the servers we know today. So I looked for something more unique, and side note, you have to log in every time you go back to the hub, which is dumb, and I stumbled across their Drops SMP, which from what I could gather is sort of like a Clans SMP that reminded me a lot of old survival servers from back in the day where people would build their bases above ground. Apparently you kill players to increase your stats and dying makes you lose them, almost like some sort of hardcore RPG. Then there's also Mine Block, which was super interesting, basically the cave or reverse version of Skyblock where you spawn in your own little cave and have to mine and create underground farms to progress, which was quite unique to say the least. There was even another game mode where you have to play to unlock certain things, like the ability to type in chat. Very odd. However, the biggest server in Poland is actually a server known as Coxcraft. Yes, very funny, but this server means business, regularly peaking at 9,000 plus players. The server has one of the coolest websites of any server I've seen, and it looks like they regularly run various tournaments and events. They also had this ping join system where if your ping is too high, they won't let you join the server. I must have joined at like 3 AM in the morning for Poland because there was barely anybody online in almost every one of their game modes, besides Bed Wars and this game mode called Skygen. And that's one stark difference to many popular English servers. You see, many English servers have player bases from various countries, and thus, while they fluctuate in player counts during time zone uptimes and downtimes, their player counts generally remain quite steady and never fall below a certain amount. However, almost all of these non-English servers have player bases exclusive to their country, meaning they drop down from the high thousands all the way down to the low hundreds, if not even lower, during their down times. Anyways, their most popular game mode seems to be one called Skygen. Basically, you stand on these blocks at spawn and collect items, which you can use to trade with villagers for other gear and weapons. Then you can start making your way along these other further islands where you can find resource generators and villagers to trade you better gear. But be warned, PvP is enabled, meaning you have to fight to claim those resources, although keep inventory is on. The game mode seems to be some sort of AFK clicker hybrid game mode where you AFK for gear to attain better gear, so on and so forth, with a gameplay loop similar to those Roblox tycoons. It's a unique and interesting concept though, so they at least deserve some credit for that. And to be honest, it's pretty fun. Running around parkouring and knocking people off into the void, collecting resources and upgrading gear, I can see why this gameplay loop is so addicting. Beyond that though, the server just had the regular run-of-the-mill game modes like Sky Wars, SMP, Kit PvP, or as they call it, Chess PvP. I enjoyed my time exploring Polish Minecraft servers, at least they showed some innovation rather than just bringing Hypixel to Brazil. But let's move on to Turkey now, where there's a fierce rivalry ongoing. CraftRise is the biggest Turkish Minecraft server, regularly peaking at around 7,000 players and has one very unique quirk. As I'm sure you've noticed, almost all the servers we've talked about thus far have been cracked or non-premium servers, which means they allow users playing pirated Minecraft to join. CraftRise is also a cracked server, but in order to join, you have to be using their specific client, otherwise it won't let you connect. It's pretty insane to think that they still manage to sustain such a large player base, even when they force their players to download and use their own client. Anywho, the CraftRise launcher, as it's known, is actually pretty good looking, and upon loading in, you don't even go to the menu, but rather just load straight into their server. In fact, I don't even think you can play single player or other servers with this client. There is no menu. No surprise that Bed Wars is their most popular game mode, which gets upwards of 3,000 players in uptime, mind you, and it's nothing special, just the usual, although for some reason, even though I have 377 ping, the combat felt really smooth and not laggy in the slightest. Besides Bed Wars and their other standard game modes, they actually have active survival games, and are the first non-English server I've seen which has factions. Their survival games is surprisingly popular still. It's a blast from the past, and possibly the only Minecraft Java server left which still has good quality and active survival games with the OG MCSG maps. It was actually good fun, and you bet I 1v2'd for the 8 kill win, even with 300 ping. Their custom client has a bunch of cosmetics as well. It's a pretty high effort server. However, CraftRise isn't the only big Turkish server, as Sonu Yonku network is only slightly smaller, peaking at around 6,000 concurrents per day. This server also requires users to use a custom client in order to join. The server has practically the same game modes and usual suspects, however it does have a unique gun game mode whereby each kill upgrades your weapon. They also have Among Us, which is interesting. So both of the biggest Turkish servers require users to use their own clients, which is something I've never seen before. I wonder how this would play out on Western servers if it was a thing. Let's venture into Russian servers now though. ReallyWorld is a server owned by a big Russian YouTuber known as Mr. Doma. The server is really big, the biggest we've seen yet. In fact, it peaked at roughly 12,000 players only a couple days ago now. Now, something I noticed on this server which I hadn't seen before is their web-based captcha you have to pass before you can connect to the server, which is cracked, mind you. Anywho, this server actually has the least amount of game modes compared to the other servers we've explored today, most of which had 15+, but ReallyWorld only has 3. However, their game modes are ultra popular. One of their game modes is called Greenpath Survival, which when you click on displays over 25 survival servers, most with 100 to 150 players each. It's insane just how popular these survival servers are. In fact, their two most popular ones require a $10 donator rank just to join, and both had over 180 people online, meaning they probably have about 5,000 weekly active players who donated just to join, which is an insane amount of money. And the thing is, it just seems to be a normal survival server that allows PvP and griefing. They also have Anarchy, which isn't very popular comparatively, and finally they have Mega Grief, a server with almost 400 people online together. Now I don't know exactly what the difference between Mega Grief and normal Grief for Survival is, they even have identical spawns, but whatever it is, it must be really trendy. This server absolutely pops off with just its SMP based game modes, which is extremely impressive. Taking a quick detour in Romania now, where gaming is not a crime, a cracked server called Gamster is their most popular, regularly peaking at around 2,000 players. Now that's nothing too crazy and wouldn't have been featured here if it wasn't for the fact that it apparently peaked at 18,000 players back in 2020 and was peaking at over 10,000 in 2019. Now one thing which is interesting about Gamster is that it doesn't seem to just be targeted at Romanian players, offering a variety of languages you can select in the hub. In terms of game modes and minigames, it's the standard stuff once again, and they really seem to be serious about this gaming is not a crime thing. BlocksMC is a server which this website told me was hosted in Saudi Arabia, NameMC told me was hosted in the UK, and the official website which had Arabic in it as well as a decent amount of broken English, so let's just assume it's Saudi Arabian based. The cracked server is quite successful, peaking at around 3k players daily. The server's game modes and minigames are the usual suspects, although they have quite a few minigames that you don't really see anymore. The server really gave me a 2014 network vibe, from the maps to the hubs to the lobbies. It's a server which you just wouldn't see anymore and reminded me of my old days playing cracked Minecraft. And finally today we have the second biggest server behind Hypixel. Universocraft, a Spanish cracked server regularly peaking at 10k players daily. The server was even larger in the past, regularly hitting 15 to 17,000 players a few months back. Once again, Bed Wars is their most popular game mode, and besides that, they don't really have anything unique. Interestingly though, they have a separate hub made for players with low-end PCs. However, they have a classic game mode called Capture the Wall, which is extremely similar to the once beckoning Java server Overcast Network. Large team-based game modes like this aren't really a thing on Java anymore, so it was awesome to see something like this again. The server is no doubt massive, but is far from unique to say the least. Universocraft and many other big crack servers probably gained a lot of popularity as Minecraft is comparatively more expensive in such countries and thus even less accessible to a player base, which does have lots of young children in it. Pirated Minecraft in general is therefore significantly more common in countries such as Russia, as we've covered extensively in the past, and thus these cracked servers find themselves with thousands of players at their disposal. It's also interesting how many of these servers feel like a blast from the past, pulled straight out of 2014 into the modern day, yet still so popular. An interesting experience, that's for sure. Let me know of any servers I may have missed in the comments, and check out my server, og-network.net. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching.